Okie dokie. Hey, it's morning and I feel like everyone's still kind of asleep. That's why I'm not gonna talk really loud, but I wanted to make a video today in the fresh morning and on how to be a good photographer. It's a thing obviously that one thinks about all the time when one is taking pictures too. Point in my little list, I made a little bullet point list for this video. First of all, just make sure that you know who your idols are. So it doesn't have to be like fancy fine arts photographers. It could also be like a photographer who's working in the commercial field, but just like know who inspires you and follow them and look at their pictures, get the inspiration on a daily or weekly, monthly basis from them. Try to find out the techniques, how they work, and then maybe just try to get some sort of like inspiration from that. But also try to be critical as well while you actually seeing them as an inspiration. Maybe also try to see why they are an inspiration for you and what you like specifically about their style. And that exactly, I wrote that here. It's amazing, I actually really wrote that here. I said like, try to find your own style and also ask yourself why you're doing it. So I guess what I mean with that is like, keep on taking pictures, and then eventually you will see like a pattern. You will see your preferences. So for instance, I started off taking lots of close-ups. I really liked that, like of anything, and especially I was so obsessed with people. So eventually I realized, oh, maybe I really like this like intimacy in my pictures, and maybe I also maybe I'm really into people, like maybe I'm just so curious about them and like what they are up to and their story. That was my initial kind of thing. But then actually as I proceeded, and I take like at least 10,000 to 15,000 pictures a year at least. I think these days is much more, but anyways, as I proceeded, I kind of started to notice that it's not so much about the stories of the people anymore. It was becoming more about the interaction. So I guess like I really wanted to be seen behind my camera, and I really wanted to have that kind of moment where things clicked, and where I feel like I also used it as a way to get into conversations with people. And now I'm actually taking less pictures and I'm getting into the conversations with people anyways. So that's really interesting. Also pay some attention to the colors that you like. When you edit your pictures, that's actually also a really important part of taking pictures. A part that takes much longer actually than taking pictures initially. Most of the time, because you have to go through every single of your pictures, and then you actually have to try to get the best out of the picture or crop it, or you know, like so it actually presents your concept and your idea in a nice way. So there, for instance, in the beginning I realized that I really like to take to edit my pictures in a blue scale and high contrast, and now I realized I start to go more into a yellowish kind of tone range. And I guess that also really says something about your like emotional state, the kind of colors you use or the things you're interested in, just says so much about you. So actually, and in the end, taking good pictures is just really about finding yourself. It sounds really cliche, but it's actually really true, because obviously you are the maker of these pictures, so you make some really important choices even though they are subconsciously made, but that all of that just says so much about you, because you are trying to sell your own perspective, you're trying to show other people your angle on things. So you should try to find out what exactly is my angle and what exactly is my perspective in order to increase the quality of your pictures, because then you can go out into the world and you can start collaborations with people who have similar style, a similar approach, and you can inspire one another, you can collaborate, or also you can go more into the niche and specify even more and learn more and more and more about yourself. And that's really important these days as a photographer, that you actually have your own style and that people start to recognize you, and then they would want to work with you and they would contact you, because seriously, there's so many photographers out there. Maybe I wrote it here in my... Yeah, I kind of wrote a similar thing, but there's so many photographers out there, so it's really important that the people know you for the sake of you and they know what you stand for. So you have to know your core values and what defines your photography. I said something like, make your style your personality, or the other way around, make your personality your style, and that's how people find you really authentic, and that's how they find you really inspiring, because they really know what they get when they're with you. It's not like a wishy-washy kind of experimenting kind of thing. But anyways, like, I love to experiment, like, definitely love to always challenge myself, but I guess like I have a pattern in the fields and areas where I keep on challenging myself, and yeah, and I know what my core values are after all. Like, I also know what kind of collaborations I don't want to end up in with, and that makes the good photographer from the bad one, because that's my opinion, right? But the bad photographer would maybe just, work for the job, and the good photographer is really passionate about their medium and he's really able to inspire the masses. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the kind of guys who never really get famous during their life, but then when you look back a couple of years later, then people realize, oh, they were so advanced for their time or something like that, or these artists actually make a change. Like, for instance, I remember when I'm going into the music field, but I feel like it's also creative scene, so it's kind of connected. But for instance, when Sia released her first music video with the wig, that was such a absurd kind of like concept, because the music videos at that time were so different from her style. And now just the other day I was like, oh yeah, I think she actually really made a change in that scene, because now I guess even that like other musicians kind of started to have a more creative or fine artistic kind of approach to the video materials. And like, for instance, you see also lots of illustrations as music videos these days, and I guess it really kind of opened up this more crazy, fine artistic approach. But it's like we go with the time, with the zeitgeist, and then in there it's important to kind of already on top think a bit more ahead, and this is only possible if you surround yourself with other people also really trying to push, the boundaries and push further and try to find out about themselves, the style and just the world. Like that kind of people who are constantly, like, I guess an artist is just someone who's constantly asking themselves, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then they eventually push further because they filter out some essence, then they share that with the people. The people get inspired, the people actually give some feedback, and then you increase the quality of your work and your stuff, and then you push further and you always grow. And it's a really good work is always about the concept, because it's really a superficial way to judge photography, good or bad. Like in the end it doesn't matter, because again it just defines what resonates with the viewer. So if a viewer says, oh, I like this or I dislike this, that just says what the viewer likes, and then you can ask him why, or based on which experience, why would you say that? Like, then you find out about them, right? But the work is not really defined at all. Like, the quality of the work is not included in this judgment. You can only judge, or that's my kind of conclusion I came to, a work based on the concept, and there you can kind of, the end quote would be then, ah, yeah, that makes sense, or ah, you could also. You know, that's why collaborations are so important, because you really have to work together with other people in order to push yourself further, to keep achieving things that you never thought of, you know. Like, that's so important, interaction. But that's my opinion. I don't know if every photographer or artist sees it like this, but that's my opinion. Then I wrote down, it's not about the fame, it's about the cash. Yeah, to make stuff and then to earn money with something you like. That is fully true, I think. You should just really try to take all the opportunities that kind of challenge you or that could give you no insight. It doesn't only have to be in the photography field. For instance, I also did as a kid some other creative stuff which influences my style. For instance, acting, the modeling, singing, or I worked at the radio station. I guess it's just important to network. And I think I also wrote something like, eventually you figure out what you really like and you just have to show your shit to everyone. Learn to show your shit to everyone and ask for feedback. That's really important. Like, just, you know, take the opportunities as they come and then keep on talking about the stuff that you're passionate about. And also try to learn from other photographers. Like, I remember I actually started, before I even studied photography, I started off working as an assistant for a real estate photographer in Australia, here in Australia. And I did like a promotional video for their company, like that was my idea, for instance. And then while I was doing this, I actually really learned like some of their kind of techniques, you know, and you do that, you realize there's no right or wrong. Like, there's so many ways to approach a project or to get results on an image. You really don't have to like think, yeah, there's only one way. That's why I try to make those kinds of videos with which kind of open up your perspective and make you aware of what you already carry inside of you, like the inspiration, creativity, and to just like, you know, nourish the techniques and the skills. They can all follow afterwards, and yeah, I think just work with what you have. That's my biggest advice for you. Like, I hear so many people who are like, no, I can't start yet because blah blah blah. And then you go into the internet and you check out these videos on the techniques and the fancy cameras, you know, all that kind of stuff. But that's not being an artist. That's just being, you know, a photographer. Some guy who earns, like, as a hobby photographer maybe, with his skills, you know, who knows his people, you know, in the surrounding, and then they kind of start to find out that he has a really fancy and good camera, and then they start to ask him for jobs. But a real artist, real photographer is the one who kind of gives zero fucks if anyone actually likes the shit they produce, but they do it anyways, right? Because they have this vision and that passion and fire burning inside of them, and then they just need to create shit, you know, and even if it's fucking ugly, they just need to do it anyways, and they need to find out how does this camera work. They just really want to explore the world with their art, like with their creative angle on things. And that's the kind of person that inspires you. So you shouldn't feel bad about not having the skills yet, but to actually focus on, you know, that creativity that you carry. And then generate value for other people, like not just your target audience. That, I guess, is also the difference between a real photographer and just a photographer who finishes the job. Like, a real photographer has so much passion, he would always like go into overdoing it kind of thing. Is this perfectionism that lots of artists, like their flaws, the perfectionism that they always want to do everything perfect. And I guess that is the one thing that we should try to eliminate, to kind of eventually just realize that what we already produce or what we do is enough, and that we don't have to push ourselves always and all the time. And then the last advice is such a Celina advice. It's like, I wrote down, don't be afraid to drop your camera. I just didn't re-quote this properly what I wrote here. Be afraid to drop your camera. Do whatever it takes to take a good picture. And don't forget to charge your camera and SD card. This is really important, because sometimes you forget. So always be prepared. When I go to a job, I come with like 2 to 3 cameras, always have a backup, you know. Yeah. But actually, I'm going to make another video on that kind of thing that I mentioned in another video of mine, that photographers always have this obsession to always take pictures, and how sometimes we should maybe also learn to just enjoy reality. I'm gonna make a separate video on that. But in the meanwhile, thanks very much for listening. Thanks for your time. It would be really nice, actually, and I'm going to say this now in this video too. It would be really nice to actually have you guys subscribe on my YouTube channel, because now I'm trying to do another challenge for myself, to make these videos. That's kind of part of my body of work too, I guess.